For sure, having more fun out here.
Oh yes, man, definitely. No, it's really nice to see a bit more liveliness.
Yeah,
Unfortunate to see the ledger stuff, but you know, the happiness is good. The vibes are good.
yeah. I mean, honestly, I don't know what it's going to take for people to wake up about ledgers. I try not to negatively speak about anyone or anything, and I think from my experience, well, think of it as like a customer experience part of it. When I first got into this space, everyone tells you get a ledger. So I got a ledger, and I look, I buy it. It says, oh, it's going to hold a charge for, it'll actually hold a charge. So I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. I get it. Doesn't hold a charge for 1 second. I'm like, all right, well, that's a lie. So then I get a refund, and they send me another one. It's the same thing, dude. And then like, all right, I was like, all right, well, I'll just plug it in and have it plugged in the entire time. And if the wire got bumped, it would shut off. And just like the experience of it too, always having to smash buttons, like I just never liked them. So like I was like, there has to be something out there better. And then I found Keystone, and it was like day and night comparison. It actually holds a charge. You can do QR code scanning, and there's no vulnerabilities with it. And there's been nothing but like, honestly, like I hate to say it, but the thought process behind ledgers are it's good in theory, but I think it does more harm than good. And one of the reasons I say that is, I've helped out numerous chains. I still do a lot of the things on, like, I call it like the janitorial work, helping out, new users or just general users. And so many times, every single, like 99% of the problems in crypto when it comes to just like UI and UX has to do, it pertains to ledgers. Like it just does. Like, and it's just not a good experience from even like the team side of it, trying to cater all the time to ledgers. And it's just like people are going to wake up eventually. This is the second thing that's happened with them recently. The other one was like they had a back door in to get into like your ledgers or whatever. And like I'm like, ooh, that's not good, and that's kind of sketchy. So I don't know, because there are a lot. Like I like Keystone, but I know there's other ones out there too. Like they're legitimate hardware wallets, and they're like the same price. Like they're literally like the same price. It's just, but yeah. Anyhow, go ahead. I digress.
No, absolutely, man. I kind of agree. You know, I think ledger does kind of suffer for UX. It's just a UX thing, and maybe getting a bit bloated as they get like they're more of an established player, and they're getting that kind of bloated feeling of as a provider of a product.
Yeah, I almost look at ledgers like Ethereum in a sense. Like, when you first come in, especially if it was a few years ago, the talk of town was Ethereum, right? Like everyone's Ethereum, Ethereum, Ethereum. But you can see right now the narrative, right? Like even if you're just like following like what's going on, who's building what, where are people getting excited at, you don't see any excitement for ERC20s right now. Like just like nowhere, unless they're like catering towards AI or gaming. Everything else is just not relevant, in my opinion. And you could just see it by, look at Cosmos and Solana and all the enthusiasm and excitement and even if you're just one of these people that just speculates on price points, like all the movement is in those ecosystems, and they're not on ERC20s because, why the hell would someone want to partake in DeFi or just anything? And every time you do a transaction, it's like $25, $30, 25. Like it's just not for the common person, And I almost look at Ledger like that in the same sense. You came in, they the first movers advantage, but then there's other players out there that make better tech. It's more smooth. It's a better experience, and that's what I say. So anyone out there listening, I'm not trying to be harsh on Ledger. It's just that, in my opinion, they got complacent, and the other people, just like in my opinion, Ethereum, whether Ethereum got complacent or it was just their tech was maxed out. Like Ethereum works. Don't get me wrong. Like it works, but no one wants to pay $30 to send $20 or anything, or just to
I don't
simply.
think Ethereum is maxed out in as much as it is. It's always been what it is. It's always been the test bed for the experimentalists, for the scientists, for the mad hatters. You know, it's always been that. I think Vitalik's always kind of said that it's more like a decentralized playground than anything else, and that's absolutely amazing for innovation, but it's absolutely god awful for UX.
Oh, it's yeah, it's very awful. And It's just not sustainable, and I think I understand what they're going for, and Vitalik made it a reference of like the United States Supreme Court and everything. It's like if you do a violation, some random violation, you don't like as a citizen, like you don't go to the Supreme Court over like a speeding ticket. You go to your local man, you go to your local government or your local magistrate, and they're trying to have that same approach in crypto. It's like not all these transactions have to be on Ethereum, but it's like the base layer of it. But even that though, it's just I don't know. Like I think with that mentality, it's like I would rather have Bitcoin as some sort of store of value slash ultrasound money, and then for fast, like super fast monolithic, I would go with Solana, and then anything app related, like app chain related, I'm going Cosmos, and everything else. Like I said, this has been my thought process since I've been in this space and all my experiences, and I used everything. It's not like well, I can't say use everything. I don't really do anything on Cardano. I've never had any fancy to go over there. But pretty much everything else I've used, like their decks. I just use everything just to try it out. And Cosmos and Solana has always been a good experience from like just clicking buttons and it comes up fast. It looks smooth. It doesn't cost a lot. I've been all about like chains that are apps, like app-based chains, because that's all we use right now, even before crypto. Like you pull up your phone, it's all apps on there. And I always thought of it in that sense. And it's all panning out. Like you could just see it. Like all the Cosmos L1s, there's like over 70 of them. They're pretty much all performing well. Like everyone's excited about it because it's all products. Like people can use things, and I don't know about Ethereum. Like how can you use any of it? Like you really can't use any of it. So
I
I don't know.
really, really like the security of like you can be interoperable with other chains, but the security of knowing that it's actually going to work on Cosmos is the way that I like to see the interoperability there. I really love that aspect. But at Cosmos, before we go into any more awesome conversation, I need to get the intro done, and I need to say hello to everyone. So welcome, guys. You are listening to Into the Cypher State. This is a weekly podcast. We'll be doing one more before Christmas, so we're going all the way up to the wire with Christmas. We'll be doing a special next week. I'll tell you more about that later. For now, just do a very quick disclaimer, guys. We are, well, we're not that smart. We're not that great with money, I'll admit. So we are not going to be offering any financial advice, neither of us. Anyone who joins up on stage, their opinions are their own, and nothing on this space, nothing at all, constitutes financial or investment advice. So there you go. That's the disclaimer over and done with. I am fucking already enjoying the conversation going on today. I just wanted to say hi to everyone. So Till Dawn, Sentheslayer, PNG, Davborg, Mischa, Mike. Hello, welcome to the show. You are welcome to come up on stage if you wish to. You're crying at me, PNG. Did I say your name wrong? Is it Penguin? What do you want me to call you? Put it in the comments if you don't want to jump on the stage. In any case, welcome. And yeah, we are currently having a great little chat about the Web3 in general, how we see the protocols that we actually use. And this is something that I love about blockchain is that we have so much user choice. We have so much ability to just jump over to new things when we see them, and when something doesn't work, we do have the option to opt out and go to something else. This is the beauty of blockchain, and I love it. Go on, Hoss, if you want to shout.
Yeah, I mean, it totally is. And that's always been my thought process of why Cosmos. Because like I think I have so many conversations with people kind of outside of Cosmos, and they think, oh, he's just a Cosmos maxi, but they don't even understand what that even means. That just means that I'm a maxi of interoperability and how blockchains communicate, and also just app chain thesis. Like I just believe in app chains. I'm not saying monolithics aren't bad, but what's great about app chains on Cosmos is it technically can be a monolithic chain as well. Like it's interoperable, it's modular, and you could just look right now. I think it's 8 or 9 chains total out of the top 100, and it would actually be more if you got rid of the stable coins. They're IBC chains or Cosmos. Like it's because one of the reasons I'm super bullish and have been super bullish is because I've been to events. I've been blessed to speak with, I don't know, hundreds of developers that are just geniuses and have conversations. And some of them are super eclectic, and it's really hard to understand what they're even saying or speaking about. But, over time, I just kind of understood what they're speaking about and kind of found a place by translating it into layman terms to most normal human beings. But there hasn't been one, and I've spoken with plenty of devs and that build on Solidity, they're building Ethereum, Polkadot, wherever, and none of them, and I mean it too, like none of them have ever been like, oh, the Cosmos tech is shit. They're always like, this is really good tech. Their whole problem at first was, I get it, when you're a dev you kind of seek green pastures where the money is, and you go to Ethereum, right? It's like that's where all the money is. And I kind of understand that, but the people that used to be there, they're like, look, this tech is limited. We can't do what we want to do. And you see that in troves. DYDX was a perfect example. Like they had their exchange, and they're like, we have to be off of Ethereum. We have to have our own chain. So where are you going to go when you want your own chain? You're going to go to a place that has the blueprint for you to do it, but also the blueprint is adjustable to what your needs are. So you can just chug and plug, and you can fix it. You can add things to it. You can subtract things to it. There's just so much customizability. And it's like we were talking about earlier, like a playground. Cosmos is the playground for a builder, because you could do whatever the hell you want to do, and you can connect to who you want to connect to. It's like, people think, I think a lot of people, they're misinformed or uneducated about really truly what interoperability really means, because like that was like the fad, like last bull run was like interoperability, and everyone and their mother was talking about it, but they didn't know anything about it. And one of the main things that always resonated with me with the Cosmos, like core, like OG slash like down about it people, were they were very intellectual when it came to like how actually the underlying technology works. Now, I know most people aren't going to care about that, and rightfully so. Like, who really cares about, when you go on one website and go to another, like, why is it working? But like, in order for this space to like go to where it needs to go, there has to be people that understand that and why it works. And just like the general kind of core people in Cosmos, they like understand these things. And it's like, well, that's kind of where I want to be at, because these people, they're going to hit pitfalls and not understand things at first, but they're all engineers. The devs are, they're all engineers, and they'll find a solution to any problem, any like fork in the road. And I've been saying it. I've been doing this 12, 15 hours a day most days, Monday through Friday, for like 2.5 years now. And what's cool about Cosmos is it's not like, hey, like your chain is terrible. It's more about like, hey, we have this like amazing infrastructure that you could do whatever you want to do, but like all you need to do is upgrade your code. And now you're in the IBC gang, and you're a part of this huge network, and it's there for people. I think everyone eventually is going to tap into it one way or another, and it's just inevitable. So the people that have been kind of building out the foundation, and like an osmosis, right? Osmosis is like the liquidity hub of all of Cosmos right now. Like they're positioned well for anyone that wants to keep adding into, the IBC, and then like hopefully with Galactica could be like the place for, the identity and the decentralized society, and like everyone has their like little role to build this huge galaxy that everyone could partake in, and it's going to be so cool to see it over like the next, I don't know, I feel confident, not with the price points, but like just the overall adoptability and mass adoption, like over the next, I would say not this cycle, there's going to be a ton more new people, but the next cycle after that, I think it's like you're starting to look at like billions of people in this space, and that's what I'm looking forward to. And then all the people that were the naysayers and the old boomers that were shouting and pouting from the rooftop that this is all a scam and all this stuff, it'll just be the same thing that we heard back in 2000 about the internet being a scam. So they're all going to be proven wrong. And we're all us crazy lunatics that have been in this space for years now are going to be proven right. And it's just, I think it's inevitable. I could be wrong, but I don't think I'm going to be wrong.
I think you're right, mate. I think we've had a decade or so of innovation, and that decade of innovation is going to lead on to another decade of basically like protocol Darwinism, where we end up with only the strongest surviving and being adopted, and all of it's going to be made interoperable. Hopefully by the IBC, because it seems to be the strongest possible method of being interoperable, and then we'll probably have like several decades of mass adoption. I think it's going to be incredible. It really is. Now I've been neglecting our guests. We got a couple of extra speakers on stage. I want to say welcome to Trigs. How you doing, dude?
Yeah, doing good. I popped up because I wanted to make some interject some comments on some of the things, but there was quite the monologue there for a bit. Cosmos Haas covered pretty much the entire spectrum, so I think that he pretty much said it all.
We love
I can
us.
get going, you know what I mean? It's like I got like a motor mouth when I get in the zone. I'm in it, you know.
Yeah, I know it was great, but happy to be up here and looking forward to dropping some insights as well. Definitely have some thoughts about some of the things. I just got to dig them back out of the brain in there. But yeah, good stuff.
No worries, man. We've also got Till Dawn up on stage. How are you doing, buddy?
Hey folks, yeah, good. Can everyone hear me?
Can hear you just fine, mate.
Awesome. Yeah, now good. First time up here, so quite excited about it. Oh yeah, also thanks, host, for the explanation. Looking actually forward to you to have a chat at some stage as well, if you can. So yeah, hello everyone.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's what it's all about. I'm getting the vibes back when it was like last summer, like end of spring going starting. Well, actually, about wintertime of 21 going into about spring of 22. That's when Cosmos was still ripping. I think like most ecosystems were kind of tilling off and everyone started to see it. And then the whole UST thing kind of set Cosmos back pretty substantially when it came to just people looking at prices and all that. Because sadly, that's for the most part is how you get people to like really look at your projects right now, and that'll eventually change because like I said earlier, things are becoming products. It's not just ideas anymore, and you could actually feel things, see things, touch things, and that's what I'm super excited about. And all these different chains and IBC have been doing different little things that they've been specializing in. It's like, oh, you want decentralized cloud compute where you can basically rent your GPUs or build things. You go to a Kosh, and then you got like a ride chain that's specializing in like mini AI applications, and then you have like osmosis is like the liquidity hub, and then there's just so many like injective. Then celestia is like the real big player right now. I think everyone knows about celestia by now if you've been like paying attention at all. But they're building out modularity for blockchains and like blueprints, and it's just like so cool to see all this shit just happening. And I just remember like IBC having only a few chains at one time, and it was just like, and people were just always questioning it because everyone always, and still to the day right now, people still think of when I think of the word Cosmos, I legitimately don't even think of Atom, and that's not like a detriment to Atom or anything. The hub is like a security hub, and the idea is one day there's going to be thousands of blockchains, just like I don't know how many websites there are, but and people were going to tap into like the hub for security. And I mean, they could be right. It's just a really long time play, and but yeah, it's just so cool to see this, and I hope Galactica is like this place where people utilize for KYC and then having reputation on chain, and like it's all everything's obviously experimental, but it's just so cool to be that person that's kind of in here in the weeds, and maybe one day we could be those old people, and they used to have stories about walking 6 miles in the snow to catch their bus. We could just say we had to have like 700 wallets to like partake in all of crypto, and now it's super cool whatever the future entails. But I just enjoy all of it, and nothing ever I say is financial advice, but I don't sit back because I remember opportunities for people that were probably my age back in the 90s, and they had it in their fingertips. All they had to do is have a little bit of courage and invest in like any technology. And all they had to do is pick a couple winners, and they probably could have been free by their, but when they're in their 50s or 60s. But they all kind of sat back and listened to the criticism of, you know, the people that don't want you to have financial freedom and say, "Oh, the internet's a scam. It's for weirdos." And like it's the same thing. You got like Elizabeth Warren shouting and pouting, and crypto's a scam. Like it's the same thing. It's just history.
That's some good financial advice, mate. That's some good
It's
financial
just
advice. I appreciate it.
it's just the same thing, man. It's just like history repeating itself. So
100%.
Yeah, actually, sorry to jump in. I was just wanted to comment on the like interoperability thing you were talking about before, and like how people don't even think of Atom when they think of Cosmos. It's actually one of the reasons why I've become more of an IBC maxi than a Cosmos maxi. Although, I mean, the Cosmos SDK is, the foundational point that all the blockchains are built off of. But just like Tendermint has rebranded, the Cosmos SDK, maybe someday rebrands, who knows? But IBC really is, I think, the core element of what makes the Cosmos so special. And kind of tying back to something that you were talking about before, Haas, with Ethereum and the value of Ethereum. And IBC is now coming to Ethereum, and that app chain thesis is proving itself not only in the Cosmos but also in Ethereum. Polymer Labs is launching their own, L2 that is built on the Cosmos SDK, but also integrates, the Ethereum side of the network, and it will make not only Ethereum but all of the L2s will suddenly be able to just plug right into the IBC network and connect with every app chain on the Cosmos. And I think that's really going to be the next unlock that we're going to see over this next year that changes the entire landscape of Ethereum and Cosmos interoperability. Solana is connected to IBC now. Avalanche through the Lava Network. No, the other one, Landslide, is building. Yeah, they're building IBC connectivity. So everything is becoming the IBC, and that's going to change the way that we interact with everything. And that kind of ties back to my other thought that I was having when you were commenting about Bitcoin as ultrasound money. And that's something that I actually strongly disagree with you. I've been anti-Bitcoin since like 2010 when I first heard about it. I think I actually I got delayed in my entrance into crypto, kind of leading into the "why are you here" part of it. But I was originally turned off to the idea of crypto because I thought that Bitcoin was just like a really obvious Ponzi scheme scam. Although the technology of Bitcoin, I think, is revolutionary, and I think that was like the proof of concept that really mattered. That started this like this stone rolling down the hill of what the crypto movement and the cypherpunk movement taking over, and everything that we're trying to build with Galactica started there. But I don't see Bitcoin as the answer that's going to be the ultrasound money or the store of value or any of those things that take us into the future. I think it's done the work that it needed to do, and it's currently still doing some of that work. But I think the industry is going to move away from that as we move forward. It's just my personal take on it. I don't see the value in really upholding Bitcoin over something like Ethereum. I think the value of Ethereum as the money behind everything makes more sense to me because of what can be built on Ethereum. And once Ethereum has access to IBC connectivity, all of a sudden the cost and the barrier to entry working on Ethereum goes away, and suddenly you can use Ethereum without the transaction fees on other chains. And I think that'll open up a whole new doorway to ways that we can engage with Ethereum that don't suffer that barrier that we face with the extraordinarily high fee costs and all that kind of stuff. But there was my monologue. I had to
no,
get
man,
it all out at
that's
once.
good.
That's super
Yeah,
interesting.
I
Super
guess.
interesting take.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I've never been some like Bitcoin maxi. I mean, I wish I kind of was last bull run because like I didn't have any Bitcoin really, and I would have had some, and at least I wouldn't lost like my UST or whatever. But no, it's interesting. I think like there's the reason why I still think Bitcoin will do okay is because they're going to be IBC too, and people can use that for security. Like I know Babylon Chains is an L1 in Cosmos that's you're going to be able to just have your Bitcoin actually not even on chain but away. It's called timestamping, and the reason why I like it, and I didn't do like all the work and the due diligence. I have interviewed Dr. Shea, which is a professor at Stanford University. He actually, in fact, has his own wing there. So, and full disclosure or a full little tidbit on that individual is the reason I have this phone like next to my mouth doing this Twitter space is because he helped pioneer wireless communications. And for someone like him, to do wireless communications and work like on before web was web and then web 1 then web 2, and the guy's like highly successful, right? And I've interviewed so many people, and he was the only person I kind of was like starstruck about, because I just find his story to be like super unique and fascinating for a guy to be so established and continue. Obviously he's a professor, the guy's a genius and's been super successful. But for him to want to just to keep going, right? Like I don't know how old he is. He's definitely a little bit older now, and for him to just want to keep doing it and keep striving, and I asked him like, why come into this space, and he just like it's simple. It's the future, and it's just. But for him to want to build a blockchain that's using timestamp security from the Bitcoin ledger was like, all right, well, this he's on to something, because this is an untapped territory for Bitcoin, because there is so much value in Bitcoin. And it's like, well, why can't these people that own Bitcoin get something out of it without having to like I just dropped something to sacrifice security and all that. And no Nomic is build out IBC for Bitcoin too. So I think you'll see a future where instead of people just like hoarding their Bitcoin, in their, and I just was about to say Ledger, in their hardware wallet. I don't recommend Ledger. And just kind of sitting or doing nothing with it. I think it's going to start to come on chain, and it could be a source of actual money for people. Maybe people will start pricing things in Bitcoin on chain. And yeah, but I'm not going to disagree with you with Ethereum either. I think it's been battle tested. It works. Like, it's crappy to spend $30 to like collect, maybe your LPN or something on Uniswap, collect $30 or spend $30 or buy an NFT and it costs you like $50 just in gas. Like, it's annoying, but it does work. It's never not worked, so they have that too. And it'll get
Yeah.
efficient over time. So yeah, I mean, I'm not going to disagree with you.
Yeah, I mean, I hate using Ethereum, to be clear. Like I've got some stuff that I've bought on Ethereum over the years. It's just basically trapped there because I refuse to pay the gas fees to try to like migrate it to an L2 so I can do something with it. So it's just sitting there until it's worth like, enough money to be worth the gas fee to get it off of Ethereum. And I think that's a huge problem. One of the things that you commented kind of like piques my mind on one of the reasons why I don't like Bitcoin, and it applies to Ethereum too, and it actually has to do with token distribution. And I think that's one of the things that's going to be a massive unlock for crypto. I mean, I see everything that we're doing as being an experiment right now. We're in this huge experimental stage. And that's why I love the Cosmos ecosystem, because it's such a lower barrier to experiment. And it enables people to iterate on these experiments so much faster so that we can get to the better solutions down the road, instead of where Ethereum is at is there. And same with Bitcoin, they're stuck with all of the bad decisions that were made leading up to where they're at now. And I'm afraid of Bitcoin being used as a currency, or people actually starting to, use it as a way of evaluating things, because there is a tremendous amount of Bitcoin that has already been mined, that's sitting silently in cold storage. Some of it maybe is locked forever, but a lot of it's probably just sitting there waiting, and maybe people forgot about it, but they're going to come back and they still have their keys. And so who knows what's going to happen when the world starts transacting with Bitcoin as an actual store of value. And I mean, like, just the Silk Road situation is a huge example. There's a bunch of people that are in jail who have their keys stored somewhere out there in the world, and they're just waiting to get out of jail and go unlock their Bitcoin wallets and start dumping that Bitcoin into the market. And once you start having these little like micro economies where like, Nomic is bringing Bitcoin to the cosmos, and imagine some small chain starts using Bitcoin from Nomic to do some little thing. There's no security in what's happening there, because all it's going to take is one person to unlock a cold wallet, bring their Bitcoin through Nomic into that small cosmos chain, and then they can just buy the entire product that's on that chain. There's no credible neutrality with Bitcoin as a means of transacting value, in my opinion. And I think Ethereum's kind of similar in that regard. It's not as bad, but it's still kind of, I mean, the Ethereum Foundation pre-mined like 70% of Ethereum before they even launched the chain, or 90% or whatever it was. Like, so those are the mistakes I think that were made in these early experiments that are going to prevent them from actually being the like currency or store of value in the future. And I think some of the stuff that we're building on Cosmos and just IBC and in the ecosystem in general, we're going to create these new like index tokens that can be valid stores, a valid store of value, because you can change out what is actually in the basket behind the index or something like that. And it'll future proof it to be a more reliable form of currency and a more reliable store of value in the future.
No, I hear you. Like, that's one of the reasons, like my accounting and finance background, because I always think of blockchains as just nothing less, or whatever you want to word it, of just a decentralized accounting ledger, and then you build like cool things on top of it. And one of the reasons I always was like really long on Osmo is because it was kind of like an ETF. Like all the different IBC assets would have an LP pool, and yeah, when the market goes down, like, yeah, the price is going to go down. And really, if it wasn't for the UST debacle, like, I think Osmo would probably honestly probably be like a top 30, top 40 asset right now. I think it's like in the 80 range right now, maybe like 83 last time I looked. But no, I agree with some of that. Like, it's going to be interesting. But yeah, I mean, if you're a newer user, it's tough to just want to go to those. I think that they're losing their what do you want to call it, their power, their force of entry to a new crypto user. When I got in, it was like, yeah, because anything you heard about on YouTube was all Bitcoin and Ethereum. That's like pretty much it. You might hear like back then it might have been a little bit of Cardano and a couple other things, but now it's like you're going to probably be able to just tune into YouTube if you're a first time user and hear about Cosmos and hear about all these different things that are going on. So maybe someone's first point of entry is going on like Coinbase and buying whatever, and going into Cosmos right away. As before, it was hard. It was like you only had Atom to kind of, it was like the gateway currency to go in and out. Now it's everything. Like, even as an American, you can use USDC from Noble now and go back and forth on Coinbase. Like, you don't even need anything. And the thing I really like about Osmosis, and they're the only one that's doing it in the space, and I think it's brilliant and smart, is that you can essentially use pretty much any currency as your gas, and it's the way it should be. Like, they could do all the work in the background. You've got the tech to do it. Why do you need this token? Why do you need Ethereum to do everything, right? Like, I get it from like, if you want your token to be worth the most like ever, then just have it. You need it for everything. But I think it's pretty cool that Osmosis is. They probably run it in the background and do the swaps, and then eventually like the validators get the Osmo. But like the validators could say, hey, we accept all these currencies. Like, we don't care. We just want So it's pretty cool. Like, I think that's the way it should be.
Yeah, actually, I was just reading a Twitter thread Sam Hart was posting about, like, he was asking what's the biggest barrier to onboarding people into crypto, and the gas fee thing came up, and they've got stuff in the works for baking that into, I think, just like right into the SDK on a base layer to enable that across all of the Cosmos. So that'll be pretty exciting to see that kind of fee abstraction disappearing into the annals of Cosmos history. Yeah, I absolutely agree with that being a huge step forward.
Okay, guys, this is absolutely freaking incredible. I love the conversation, guys. I just want to remind everyone who's listening, thank you for joining for a start. If we could get some likes and some retweets on this space, that would be absolutely amazing. Just drop down to the bottom right there, give us a like and a retweet, or a comment if you'd like to add something to the conversation. It'd be very much appreciated. Now, one thing that we just love to kind of get an idea of, Trigs, I guess. Would it be fair to say that I guess you take a more blockchain as tech kind of approach rather than Bitcoin as its own kind of monetary institution, I guess. So, like, if you consider just Bitcoin as a piece of tech, then tech can just get outdated, and it's just it becomes obsolete after a certain amount of time. A Bitcoin maxi might tell you that as a sovereign monetary institution, it doesn't get outdated as long as it stays within its purpose. My personal opinion is that I think Bitcoin is flailing a bit nowadays, I would say. It's trying to go off in all these different directions. There's a lot of people pulling it in different directions with ordinals and all these like paper sticks and paper mache and toothpick kind of methods of getting Ethereum functionality onto Bitcoin. I'm just wondering, like, how you really think of Bitcoin. Is it just tech then, and it's just getting obsolete? Is that right?
Yeah, very much so. I'm not opposed to the theory of something like Bitcoin becoming an institution of its own. I just don't think that Bitcoin is going to be it. I mean, I don't know. It's so tough for me because it's like every the entire premise of Bitcoin as an institution hinges on the belief that whoever's Satoshi Nakamura is like they're never gonna pull their wallets out of storage. And so it's like a religion. It's that. So yeah, in that sense, Bitcoin is an institution, just like any religion is an institution. But I don't believe that a monetary institution should be a religion. It shouldn't be hinging on the belief that an individual or individuals are never going to take their wallets out of cold storage. I just can't sign up for that on a personal level. So I can't accept Bitcoin as an institution. But I do think that something could become an institution if it actually is built from the ground up with every single step of the process, embracing that trustless, permissionless attitude and concept that enshrines the whole spirit of Web3 and crypto. So I hope that someday we can build an institution like people believe Bitcoin is, but I can't accept Bitcoin as that. I think it's a technology that is an experiment and it's proving a lot of functionality, but at the end of the day, it's built on a belief system, not on trustless code.
You should look into Zephyr. Have you ever heard of Zephyr? ZEPH.
Yeah, I have heard of it, but my brain's not pulling up the context for it right now.
It's kind of like it's like a combination of Bitcoin because you mine it. It's really really new. It's like a combination of Bitcoin and a better version of UST because they have a protocol where and Monero. It's basically all of them put together. It's pretty cool. Don't know if it's gonna work. I like their idea. It's super early. um yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying, like, but the thing with me is there's the narratives that I believe is now and for the foreseeable future for now is Cosmos, Solana, and then you have anything that's like good AI related stuff and good gaming stuff. So there's four narratives right there. And then the fifth narrative is proof of work, and it's like for the proof of work you need to be doing something unique or different. And I think those are all the narratives right there, right there. Everything else to me is kind of just not relevant. All these other chains are not relevant unless they're building some sort of infrastructure for the aforementioned AI or gaming. At least right now, and just Cosmos and Solana. Like I don't understand what else there's out there that's unique or different. And like you were saying with the tech, like a lot of it's just obsolete, it's clunky. I don't want to do a transaction and then I have to accept a transaction before I do the transaction. Like that's what these EVMs are like. It's like you want to go do something. It's like, oh, I need to click max and it'll know how many tokens I have, and then I got to pay a small gas fee for that. And then I want to do a swap, and then I got to accept another transaction, which is way higher. I don't care what EVM, it could be an L2. Like they're not bad, but like Arbitron, it's still $1 pretty much to do a transaction. I'm not saying that's a lot, but it's still $1 when you have like Solana that's basically free. Cosmos is anything on Cosmos is practically, a penny or less. So it's like that's more sustainable than every single time you want to do a transaction, you have to pay a fee before you pay another fee. And so, like to me, that's kind of like obsolete tech. And some of the things that worry me about these L2s, like on Ethereum, is they're just a multi-sig, and it's like the whole keys of your empire, or it's just a multi-sig between whatever 3 of 5. And to me, that's way more scarier than like Bitcoin. Your Bitcoin thesis of maybe Steve Jobs, he gave a million Bitcoins back in the day to someone. I'm pretty sure Steve Jobs had something to do with Bitcoin, to be honest with you. But if not, it was for sure someone that legitimately knows the United States debt cycles, because I don't believe in coincidences, and the happening it's in parallel to the United States debt cycles. And but yeah, I digress with that. It does worry me a little bit, but I don't know. There's just so much liquidity, and then like if BlackRock and all these crazy people they throw in hundreds of billions of dollars, like even if someone did get the keys from all those bitcoins back in the day and dumped them all, like it's still the market cap would still be higher than it is right now. That's my opinion about it.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Like the volume and liquidity of Bitcoin is establishing a certain amount of Lindy effect, I guess, that ensures some level of stability. What worries me is like the micro niches of utilizing it too much. If Bitcoin is just like a digital gold where people just kind of hoard it for their own value and maybe use it as collateral for certain things or whatever, like that minimizes the risk to a certain degree. But if we start trusting it too much in smaller places where there's less liquidity, that's when these like hidden time bombs of Bitcoin reserves can come in and just like totally, destroy a small ecosystem that chose to use Bitcoin as their foundation instead of something that didn't have these like mysterious little grenades hiding in the corners. I also wanted to agree with your statement about the L2s and the multi-sigs. It reminds me of the Harmony network. I don't know if any of you guys ever heard of the Harmony network.
I remember it from
But
2021, I think.
yeah, it was like they were on the sharding thesis before Ethereum was just like starting to talk about the sharding concept, and Harmony was built on that tech. They got sharding out of the gate faster, and it was a really interesting platform. I actually I cut my teeth on the Harmony network just because it was so accessible, and when I first got into crypto, Ethereum was way out of my realm of affordability, so I just jumped into the Harmony network to play around. But it eventually crashed. I mean, it's still going, and they're still trying to resurrect it. I think I haven't been paying attention, but it crashed because their main bridge from the Ethereum ecosystem to Harmony, which is what was used to onboard literally everything. They didn't have any other onboarding path, and that bridge was secured by 2 of 3 multi-sig, and somebody hacked the multi-sig by doing it was like a social hack. They went to events that the people that were the signers went to and like got to know them and somehow got their like passwords and logged into their computers, and they drained like $180 million out of this bridge because it was secured by a 2 of 3 multi-sig. It was just absolutely insane. So you can't. You're right. You're 100% right. You can't trust a 2 of 3 multi-sig or even a 3 of 5 or whatever. Like it is not secure to have a multi-sig as the like weakest link in the entire ecosystem. There needs
Yeah,
to
and
be more
it
security than that.
Yeah, and it's just like the like patchwork to help out like the underlying settlement layer of Ethereum, because it has helped Ethereum out. Because imagine if there was no L2s and everyone there's no way anyone would keep doing that, because it'd be hundreds of dollars every single transaction. And then if you had anything cool going on, or a mint or something, the markets are moving, you're talking upwards to probably $600-700 a transaction, and like that's what you get over there. And what's cool about Cosmos is, hypothetically, like let's say a chain was really bloated. There's all kind of ways to mitigate, transactions with, dimensions working on things. But even in theory, like let's say we just use osmosis. Let's say osmosis got so big and the chain was like kind of bloated. you could just spin up another chain like osmosis too, right? It could just be for certain certain things, like that to me is more scalable than just putting a multi-sig and saying, oh, well, we're just going to have three people that need to sign this transaction. Like, what happens if something happens to those people? Then there's no one to sign the transactions. Or, like you said, people can just hack them or like hold them hostage or whatever. Like, that's way more, that's just dangerous. Like, that's why I personally don't really mess around with L2s. Like, it kind of, it's like, doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, I get why they're trying to do it, but I'm just like, people like, oh, I'll complain about the Ethereum gas, and they're like, well, use an L2. And I'm like, yeah, I get what you mean, but like Ethereum, as much as how annoying it is, it still works. Like, you can't just like shut the chain down, as opposed to you could shut these L2s down. Like, it happens. Like, it could happen easily, and it scares me. I trust more of a validator set, like 150 validators, like throughout the world, compared to just like three people, and that's all.
Fair points by all, I think. Fair points by all, guys. Just want to remind everyone, please give us a like and a retweet on the space. We are trying to provide you with some education, with some value today. I think Cosmos Hoss and Trigs are having absolutely amazing conversation here, and I'm enthralled myself. I just wanted to say hi because we've got a new speaker up on the panel. How you doing, Sen? Nice to see you, dude.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to chime in. Last week, 5 Ethereum gas fees for the other development year and a half ago. Just to add on to what Cosmos.
Sen, I don't know if it's for anyone else, but you are cutting out every once in a while. I don't know, like you just kind of sound like you're speaking and then you're stopping.
Oh, gotcha.
Not sure what that's about. In any case,
probably the tech.
That's all right. It's all right. If you can take a look at it, and then we'll bring you back in. So I think one of the things that I wanted to bring up, actually, you know what? First, I found out a funny thing about spaces today, and one of those things is that you get ranked higher in the actual like spaces UI if we have people using emojis. So if you find something particularly educational, guys, in the listeners, or if you find something particularly fun, use your emojis. It's always a good time. Anyway, going back to the actual topic, I think one of the major I guess one of the few talking points that Bitcoin maxis, you might call them, have left is the decentralization aspect, and that's the one I kind of see them bringing up the most. So I'd love to get your guys' opinions on decentralization or of Bitcoin and of other networks as well, kind of in relation to each other, because I think everyone has some kind of issue with decentralization, as we've seen multiple times from multiple avenues, and I'd just love to get some comments if anyone has any.
Yeah, that you're speaking to my heart right there. I could go on for days probably. I'll try not to get on a monologue about it, but the decentralization thing I think is huge, and I think it's really complex. It's like you look at like Ethereum versus Cosmos, for example. Ethereum's validator set structure is completely different to how Cosmos and their consensus engine works. And in Ethereum, there's thousands of validators, thousands of them, which is like sounds really decentralized. But then you look at like the Nakamoto coefficient, which if you're not familiar with that term, it means like how many validators would it take? What's the smallest number of validators that if they colluded, they could overtake the network. And so it speaks to the concentration of control that individual validators have. And a lot of people have been starting to like look at Lido on Ethereum and recognize the centralization risk that Lido potentially introduces to the ecosystem and how that affects the Nakamoto coefficient of Ethereum. And then you look at Cosmos chains, and they actually have a much higher Nakamoto coefficient than Ethereum. A lot of the Cosmos chains do. And surprisingly, Solana is one of the chains that has the highest Nakamoto coefficient. But then there's this question of centralization within Solana, which I was going to comment on this earlier when Cosmos Hoss was talking about the narratives. And there's definitely a centralization risk with Solana because of the closed sourced wallets that most of the ecosystem uses. And so everything is funneled through this trust of these wallets that they aren't doing anything nefarious. And they probably aren't, but you have to trust. Again, it goes back to that. It's a centralization factor. And centralization isn't always bad in every single aspect, but you have to look at where in the security of your ecosystem are there centralization points, and what risk does that introduce. So when you look at Cosmos and think about what's the centralization risk on Cosmos chains, and I think that we the you can call it the Cosmos cartel if you want, but there's this theme across all of these Cosmos chains, and I think this is one of the things that Galactica is addressing in their design. But I'll get back to why that is in a second. But a lot of these Cosmos chains all have the same like 5 to 10 validators who basically own the network because of the delegation weight. And if you look at a lot of chains, the highest ranked delegators on the chain might be a centralized exchange that is custodying funds for all of their constituents, and it's giving them a massive delegation weight on the Cosmos chain. They don't really wield that weight because none of the centralized exchanges actually vote on any of the governance proposals. But that's like one of the biggest differences between Ethereum and Cosmos, is that the validators actually control the vote unless users choose to override the validator's vote, but they very rarely do. And so these like 5 to 10 validators who have the majority stake across all of these Cosmos chains basically own the Cosmos. That they're a centralization risk. And we see people bringing this up whenever there's a controversial vote where it's like the number of wallets voting yes or no is dwarfed by the volume of votes that these massive validators are putting forward on the chain. And so that's a huge centralization risk, regardless of what the Nakamoto coefficient is. All it would take is these handful of validators to decide, and they do it all the time. They just decide this is what we want, regardless of what the rest of the ecosystem wants. And that's what happens on the chain. And nobody can do anything to stop them because they have the vote weight. And so we have to be building these systems that try to decentralize Cosmos even further by pulling delegations away from these, big validators who hold so much power. The Cosmos chains are limited compared to Ethereum, where you can't have thousands of validators competing on Cosmos. The Tendermint or Comet BFT now that is the consensus engine, but the way it's designed, it maxes out at maybe like 300 tops, maybe 350. But there's a performance issue. The more validators that are signing on the Cosmos ecosystem on a single chain, the more performance issues you start to have. It slows it down. And so to maintain a performant chain, you have to minimize the active set to at least, at the most, maybe 350. Most chains are at, somewhere between like 75 to 150. I think Cosmos maybe at the top with 250 or 200 now. But there's so little volume in the Cosmos that those numbers don't really matter. But imagine if we had the volume that Ethereum has of transaction volume and just the traffic in general, then all of a sudden block space starts to become more valuable because people are competing for that block space. And once you start getting competition for that block space, there's going to be more competition for being a validator, and there'll be more profitability for operating a validator. And that's when that cap is going to start to really come into play in the Cosmos ecosystem. And all of a sudden you're going to have 200 validators that are competing for the ability to sign blocks for the Cosmos chain. And how we determine which validators get delegated to, it's going to become a really big issue that makes a difference in establishing credible neutrality on the Cosmos chains that we're trying to build. I broke my word. I went into a monologue, so I'll cut it off there.
When you're in the zone, you just go with it. Yeah, man, that's good stuff. Yeah, I think it's really hard to have a perfect formula for decentralization versus centralization, and I totally agree. And I say this too, not everything needs to be totally decentralized, and I also think not everything needs to be left up to just the average person either when it comes to the best for the chain's future, because I'm sure if you took just like America, right? And I mean, I hate to say it, but I mean, I'll say it, whatever. Most Americans just are very clueless, and because I deal with these people on a day to day, they have no clue. And, most of them are probably voting, right? Like they're probably voting for who they think is cool or hip or whatever their circumstances. But if you ask them just general questions of like the economy or like things that actually matter, they probably are very clueless or very limited on their take or whatever. And I'm not saying the general, crypto individual, especially right now, has no clue about like what's going on with the particular underlying votes or governance props. But I it's just a hard formula, and I tend to agree with like the centralization risk. You do see a lot of these same validators throughout different chains and cosmos. I don't know how many there are now. There's over 70 for sure, and there are some that are probably on majority of them. Uh, but that doesn't mean that these people have the worst interest. But again, it's like if you have delegations, you need to vote for people do need to vote. So it is a real tough balance. I know there could be things that you can do to mitigate that centralization risk, and it does get sometimes frustrating. um, there's no perfect solution. I mean, look, think about how many years humans have been on planet Earth and how many governments there have been. And I think America is probably one of the better, whether you think it is or not, but it's probably one of the better systems out there. And it's not perfect. I think it works. It could be better, but it would be nice if there was more than just two parties. But I think it's a pretty good. They have a pretty good case sample. It's been around for a while now. America, not as old as other places, but it's really interesting, and that's one of the things too that fascinates me about crypto. Not like just the ledger side of things and the monetary side of things or the gaming and all this other. I firmly believe to my core that crypto has tooling built out for pretty much every um, niche in the world. That it can help improve it and make it more sustainable and just more accountable. And yeah, I do get you though, man, because like it seems like if the validators do want something in one particular way, like they could just basically push their weight around. But that kind of is like how everything is, right? It's like, you can own Apple stock, but like there's only a certain amount of people that own percentages of it, and they just get the board members in there that they want, and like it's just. But we do need to make it better. But that's kind of my point about it.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right when speaking to like that. A lot of these, they don't have like bad interests in mind. I don't think that any of these validators that I was referring to, if you're validating in the cosmos, you don't have any maliciousness in your heart. There's no benefit to be a malicious validator in the cosmos. But that doesn't mean that it creates credible neutrality by letting them get away with having more than their fair say of. Everyone should have an opinion and be able to express that opinion through on-chain voting, but we need to continually work at creating systems of decentralization that provide equal opportunity and access to everyone, so that they can all participate on the same way. And we're in a building stage right now. You're right. Like there's no way that we can actually expect there to be true decentralization. And I think we're doing a fantastic job overall as across the entire ecosystem of thinking about these things and asking these questions, right? And I think as we mature more as an ecosystem, we'll continually keep making more robust systems that support decentralization and increase accessibility. And for the cosmos, I think one of the biggest things that's going to play into the coming cycles is really focusing on the transparency side of decentralization. And I think that there's been a lot of interesting activity in the validator world. I work for a validator that validates like 30, I don't know what we're at, like 33 different chains in the Cosmos ecosystem right now. And so I'm constantly engaging in this topic all the time. It's my day job. But for me, the biggest thing is building systems of transparency for validators so that delegators know what's going on in the validator that they are supporting. And when validators make a decision, there's reasons why. It's understandable. It's not some sort of back channel deal. It's like, well, I'm going to vote for this because they're giving me a kickback or something. Like, there's nothing wrong with there being partnerships and mutually beneficial business decisions that are made, but there needs to be transparency around that. Why is that happening? Who's benefiting? Who's getting money put in their pocket because of that decision? And once everyone's informed and there's no information asynchronous, then all of a sudden we have informed, decentralized, decisions being made.
Yeah, that was good right there. I mean, I agree with you. I don't. It's just like it's just such a tough blend because I do think if you had to ask me, I do think that the validators they for the most part, I don't know any of them that want bad intentions. And if what's great about this space is you can you can kind of put them on blast, and it's like, hey, and they have to answer eventually, right? It's like you can sit there and abstain and you can vote whatever way, but like people catch on to it and they're like, hey man, like why do you keep doing this? Or like, people stop delegating to them, or you can kind of put pressure. It's almost like we're like the media at times for validators, because they're almost like a politician, like an elective official, right? It's like you can say like, hey, like I voted for you and you said you were going to do X, Y, and Z. This, and then now you're going back, but your whole campaign was this, and now you're doing this. Like, what's up with this? Like, you're shady, and you can kind of do that in here, in Cosmos, and people do, man. People are like, oh, yeah. I talk to people outside of Cosmos. They're like, there's a lot of drama in Cosmos, and I'm like, it's good drama. It's for the most part, it's healthy. Now you'll get some crazy lunatics too, but it's usually kind of healthy. You can have a discussion about the future of the chain, and like the most political chain we've had obviously was like the hub. It was like everything went like the community, the general populace would want this, and like the validators want this, and it just was like back and forth, back and forth. And then, but potentially this newest prop that passed, where a lot of people were pissed about it with the halvening of the inflation, whether you like it or not. It seemed like finally something went one way that the community went. It seems like the general populace of the community was like, hey, we're just kind of tired of all this inflation. And then like a lot of the validators were like, no, we want the inflation. So it's hard to have a crystal ball and think about what the best of the future of the chain is. And it's just, at least we have these discussions, right? Like we really don't have much say. Like I was saying earlier about the like United States political system, I guess you kind of do, but most people, sadly, they don't care about the local stuff. Like that's really where in like American politics where it all starts. Like if you handle your, at home and then your state, then the federal is kind of minute, but everyone's just like worries about the president, right? Like the president, once they're there, there's really not much for real. I think the president really has very minimal power when it comes to like actual local and your state and all that. So it's like you need to like go out and see who's running for your local municipalities and your school boards and your all the local stuff. And crypto's kind of it's at least it's kind of like all synchronized in that aspect. And yeah, like, you did make a good point too. Most of the validators that have like the most skin in the game tend to be like these centralized exchanges, and they don't vote whatsoever. So I guess that's kind of a good thing, right? Like I don't know if centralized exchanges have the best interest of the chain. All they want to do is make money. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it'd be scary if they started voting. It's like I have nightmares about that. I wake up in a cold sweat because Binance all of a sudden started voting on chain governance proposals or something. But I totally agree with you, everything that you said about that. And I loved Cosmos, and the drama gets a bit much sometimes, but I think you're right. It's an important part of the process of being engaged in what's happening. I think Cosmos has the most mature on-chain governance of any ecosystem out there. The fact that validators are responsible for upholding the values of chains, and you can delegate to them just like any kind of political party. But the thing that's really powerful about it is once your validator makes a vote, if you disagree with it, you can immediately override your portion of that vote by just placing your own vote. And I think that's like, you can't do that in any country in the world. And that's what makes me really excited about Galactica and the idea of nation state, or these, like the cipher state, the network state, having this ability for the individual to override the vote of their representative because they disagree with it. That's going to be a massive unlock for decentralization and democracy, and just like getting people engaged, because your vote actually can be heard all of a sudden.
Yeah,
And
that's super exciting because, like I see you around. I see a lot of this. Shout out to all the people in here right now. I see a lot of the people that are around, and I help out with some chains. Like a lot of like the things that I do is kind of getting them off the ground and how to market, how to kind of get their footing in the ground, so to speak, in the space. And maybe they want to do an airdrop, and I try to tell them what I would do and from my experiences. And yeah, I think that people that are doing things on chain, they're voting, they're around, they're doing swaps, they're using the technology, should get bigger airdrops. Like they should get a big, whether their amount of skin in the game financially isn't as much as someone that's like, oh, I'm gonna stake, $200,000 worth of Atom or Osmo, and then just like see you later because I believe in the tech or I like these ideas, and then I'm just not doing anything. Like I don't know, like they do bring value, right? Like you need liquidity, but like what real value is that individual bringing to the overall general thing of the realm of these things? So I tell people, like, if you're doing it, you should look for on-chain activity. You should look for voting. Maybe there's like a really good prop that, like, if you're building something privacy related, maybe go to like secret and see, something that may have been really important, and see who voted, and maybe airdrop those people. Just random, like just do stuff like that. Because I think your return on your investment, your return on like your return on the quality of person that's going to maybe come check out your protocol will be higher than just being like, oh, you know what, let me just like go to the Atom and see who's all delegating. Let me just throw them all in airdrop. Like, yeah, you'll get new people, but like, is that always the best way? And to me, it's not. And then another thing that Galactica can do is kind of just be like an aggregator of that data and be like, yeah, this person, like it should all be part of an equation, right? The financial aspect of it, yeah, that is important. I'm not saying just like anyone that has $10 in the game and is doing some stuff, like give them $1 million or something, but like it should just be a part of the equation as opposed to like the end all be all. And I think that activity and governance and voting should supersede just the financial wherewithal of one individual. And yeah, it's going to be cool because like that's another use case that Galactic can do, is for these future, people that are building things and they want to get like, hey, who can we narrow our search down, because we're building this particular product here and there's all this data on chain, so like let's just tap into it, and maybe we market to them, maybe we give them free products, because it's like that to me is kind of like the future too, is like, there's always going to be marketing, so it's like, how do we market and narrow our search down to actual potential users? And yeah, I totally agree, man. It's going to be cool to see that. And when I first heard about this, I read the paper on that Vitalik and a couple other people wrote about the decentralized society, and I was like, all right, well, if this is going to be built, it's 100% going to be built in Cosmos, because whether people like it or not, like Cosmos is the most decentralized blockchain network out there, and it's not going to get passed up. It's just not. So yeah.
Yeah, totally. And to bring it back to the original question that got us going on this, to speak to the decentralization of Bitcoin and other proof of work chains, I think that is one of the kind of double-edged swords, because Bitcoin to me is an amazing example of the most functional DAO that's ever been built, and that is really exciting to see. But I also feel like there is a barrier to entry and an avenue for monetary capture with Bitcoin because of the hardware that's required to run. So when Bitcoin first came out, it was great because all you had to do was just like throw an old computer in your closet and it could just mine, coins all day long. But now, like, the majority of Bitcoin mining is done by giant corporate farms and like huge, like access to electricity is the biggest barrier to producing more Bitcoins. And so if you have the resources to capture an energy source that you can produce, like I've seen these like big mining farms on oil, like oil rigs, refineries where they have all of this natural gas that just gets like burned off as a secondary byproduct of the refining process. And they figured out how to capture that and generate electricity with it and then use it to power Bitcoin mining farms. And that's something that the average person has no access to. And so there's like power will always centralize around those resources with proof of work. And it will never be as decentralized as something like the Cosmos can be with proof of stake. And I think that is, you know, one of the biggest reasons why, like you said, Cosmos is where it's going to happen.
Yeah, you made a good point, and like I wanted to bring that up too, is because I have experience. Because I run a node and I run an actual validator right now on a ride chain, and I'm running a node. I'm probably gonna hopefully get a validator set. I got to be on an active set on the Kosh, but no, it's like I've seen it from that, and I've also mined. You know, it's like you totally made a good point where the average person, whenever a proof of work goes live for the first time, it's probably sustainable. You could just like even right now, I got like a powerful computer. You know, I can mine some. Like I was telling you before, I was mining some Zephyr, and if the price valuation in the future is way more than what it's worth now, because technically, if you're like you look at the price of it, you're like USD value. I just ran my computer for a week straight, and I got only like $5 worth of it. But if you're like, hey, this thing, I feel like in the future it's gonna be worth 100x what it is now, then you just made you made a pretty good day at the office for really doing nothing besides just letting your computer run. And but yeah, like the Bitcoin thing, was a couple years ago. You could mine it on just like a 2080 and maybe get a few dollars. I don't know how many days you had to let it run. But yeah, it's good. That's always what one of my criticisms with it is. I always think about in the future it's it's really not self-sustainable in the aspect of true decentralization, because you're going to have these huge farms, and people are going to have so much power in them. Yeah, you can use renewable resources obviously, but like that, like you said, how much is that going to cost? Like the average person that's actually going to make it profitable to mine Bitcoin, they're probably going to have to throw in at least six figures, like just to get it going, and make it so it's worth their while too. And then, then you have you have geographical risk and everything else. So I do like proof of work though. I think there's definitely a place, but I think that there's other proof of works out there right now that are kind of like I could see them working. And that's what I was saying about my narratives. Like I wouldn't write out proof of work, things that are being uniquely utilized in a sense. And another thing that kind of worries me, this is probably why I'm ranting right now. Another thing that kind of worries me about like crypto as a whole is kind of the centralization of the front ends. Like I think that's like an attack vector that's people overlook, is just like the front ends of like these websites and stuff. Like it's like that kind of worries me a little bit. But other than that, like I know there's a team working on decentralized front ends too, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's the beauty of blockchain, in my opinion. Like, there's a million risks, there's a million pitfalls. It kind of reminds me of Vitalik's recent response to the acceleration mindset and his whole concept of defensive or decentralized acceleration. The path ahead is fraught with danger. There are so many corners that you can take, so many forks in the road that can lead to a dark path. And, if we're not careful and we're not intentional about what we build and why we build it, then we're going to find ourselves in this dark forest of mysteries that we didn't intend to end up in. But there is a path forward that is bright and shining, and probably starts with a G and ends with a Galactica. But, if we intentionally build these systems that that hold true to these concepts of decentralization and permissionless and trustless and all of these core ethos things, we have to constantly be reevaluating every single step of the way. Where's the next centralization point? Where's the next layer of trust that we need to break down? And you're right, front ends is a huge one. I'm super excited about some of the stuff that I've seen with decentralized front ends, and like being able to have users deploy their own front end on their own hardware anywhere, so you don't even have to access something that's hosted in some mysterious, data center who knows where. That kind of stuff is going to be extremely powerful for, enabling a more secure future when we actually start relying on these blockchains as our like primary economic backbone.
Yeah, and if people want to check something really crazy out, maybe one day this thing is going to be super awesome. It's super super early, and I think you probably know about it, but maybe the listeners don't. It's called gridnet.org. It's what I was talking about, was like a decentralized front end. It's like gamified. It looks pretty cool. They've been working on it for years, and yeah, because that's like an attack vector. But one of the things that I always remain bullish on this space as a whole is I honestly firmly believe that the most brilliant human beings are in this space that are building in the background, and they're just engineers. Like, one of the things engineers, they love challenges, and I think that regardless of the challenge, maybe, or the pitfall or the hurdle, whatever comes in their way, like, they're gonna find a solution to fix it. And that's what's so beautiful about technology, is that it always just blows your mind, and it's always going to blow your mind. And the things that we're doing now, maybe some of it or a lot of it's obsolete in 20 years from now, but it built the foundational rocks for all this stuff to happen. And like I said, it's just always fun, man. I just love these conversations, love hanging out and just talking to people about it and hearing their points of views and their perspectives and their maybe hurdles or qualms or whatever you want to call it. And it's just like, I think that this is just a good time. And I'll pass it over to Galactica because I'm good.
Boys, don't even worry about it. You guys have been absolutely fantastic, and honestly, you've made my job very easy this evening. Really, really easy. So I appreciate it. I just wanted to come along and say, like, I think it's absolutely incredible, the people and the technology that we've been building. I think that for every single existential threat that seems to come up in the mind of the people, there is an existential solution that seems to be being built in parallel, and that's something that's it's a defining trait of the human race, and it's absolutely beautiful. Now, today, everyone, we were actually, I was intending for this space to be on more of a topic of why are you guys in Web3. It's turned instead to an absolutely beautiful conversation about Bitcoin, about Cosmos, about decentralization, about the values that we hold as a space. We've been talking about the plutocracy problem, essentially, I would guess, in my opinion. In capitalism, people complain about the centralization of wealth. In communism, they complain about the centralization of power. And at the end of the day, we don't want to just rebuild an old system with different people benefiting from the same inequities. Okay, this is why we would like to build something more akin to a meritocracy, something in which reputation matters beyond finance. And that's why we are building Galactica.com. So please, guys, if you have a moment, please do check out our Twitter profile, give us a follow. Make sure you drop down to the bottom right of this space, give us a like and a retweet on this space, and follow everyone up on the stage, because they all deserve it. They've been giving us some amazing value and some amazing conversation. Now, to round out this space, because I believe we've been going for almost an hour and a half now, I didn't even notice because you guys have been just carrying this whole thing on your back. I haven't been doing any work whatsoever. So I would just like to ask a question of everyone. I'd like you guys to keep the answers short if you can. Why are you in Web3 right now? Why are you here? I'd like to start with Tildawn. If you're still here, I would love to hear your answer to that. He's not still here. We'll get him later.
Yeah, no, I'm still here.
Oh, you're still here.
Sorry, I did just didn't know to turn the mic back on. Now was actually a great conversation and listening to a lot of thoughts here. Actually, why I'm in Web3 or why I started, for me, is just I try to really escape the hamster wheel. The banking system, obviously inflation. Started off a few years ago as a crypto miner, and it sort of evolved from there. So, as I said, I think I have enough that everything gets controlled. Your assets getting controlled by banks, or the government is one of the most private organizations out there. You're voting for, actually, and you actually should know what the government actually is doing, instead of that you know nothing about them, but they know everything about you. So that's my take on it. And when I found Galactica Network, that kind of excites me, to be honest. Building a network or a cipher state, being out there, and not so being out there as a validator, as a person. But how should I say? Not being out there. Okay, you still got your privacy out there, and you're not getting judged on your, say, bank statement, on your beliefs, and on the way you live. You know, so I've been around the block a few times now, and I'm really, I want to opt out of the system. So that's why I'm Web3.
Good answer. Good answer, my friend. Good answer. Till Dawn is one of our sentinels. You'll see him a lot in our Discord chat. Make sure you give him a follow, guys. Same question. Sentheslayer, mate. Another sentinel of ours, please.
A bit more degen. Is my mic working a bit better?
It seems to be. Yeah, it seems to be.
Yeah, I'm Web3 games. Web3 games all the way. Got me in. Wanted to do some investment. It's a lot more fun than traditional equities, and since then it's changed a little bit to just personal growth, man. Learning a heck of a lot from you guys. I'm not IT background at all, and just learning about all this tech from Cosmos, from you guys, Galactica, and yeah, keeping on going.
Beautiful, beautiful, son. Give Sen a follow, guys. He's a good guy, really good guy. Trigs, please.
Yeah, honestly, I'm drawn to crypto. I'm in this space because of meritocracy. I wanted out of the system. I worked in tech, pretty much. I mean, I've been in tech since tech was invented, and it draws me in. Like I think the potential that it unlocks is tremendous, and I got burnt out on it. I spent probably a decade, the last decade of my life, excuse me. I was working as a landscaper, just digging holes in the ground because I got so tired of the hamster wheel, like Tilton said. You know, it's just like the cycle was endless, and it just drains the life out of you, and you get nothing for it. But Web3 brought me back into it because all of a sudden there was an opportunity for people to get out what they put in. And so for me, that's what it's all about, is not only that, but like equal access to that, not just a couple of haves having access to, you know, the success that they build, but everyone having the same access to, you know, being able to get out what they put into life. So that's why I'm here.
Beautifully put, Trix. Beautifully put. We just got up Mischa, who's one of our sentinels as well. Please give him a like. And Mischa, we're kind of just finishing up asking people why they are here in the Web3 space in as short a time as they can. So please, man, if you could tell us, that'd be awesome.
Yes, thanks. Hello. Well, I think for me, something that really matters is this technology, I think, is really changing how we interact with each other. And I think we're really at the beginning, and there are so many new possibilities left to be thought of, and probably with Galactica to put nations on chain and things like that. And I'm very excited about that. I think that's why I'm in Web3.
Beautiful, mate. Absolutely beautiful. Thanks for coming up, Mischa. Really, it's good to see you, man. And Hoss, why are you in Web3, mate?
Yeah, so I'm in Web3, kind of by luck. You know, COVID happened, and then I knew about crypto a little bit, but like I said earlier, I always think of things like metaphorically or visually or whatever you want to call it, and I just think of blockchains as like a decentralized accounting ledger. I always look at, like, you know, finances and accounting, and it's the only place where I thought to myself, look, there's over 8 billion people on planet Earth. Most of them have a smartphone, or they're connected to the internet one way or another, regardless of their geographical region or where they live or what they believe in, or, you know, what, any of that stuff. It doesn't matter. And this is the only space in the world where everyone can be connected and everyone can participate. And like, I wanted just to be a part of that and add value and help and just do all of it. And I think it's the only, I say it all the time, but I just thought to myself, like, this is pretty much the last chance for humanity to right all these wrongs that these other individuals discuss about why they're in this space, or why they got into this space, because the game is super rigged and it's out of control, and you have to it's like the way we digitally put our foot in the ground and say that's enough, and we're going to build tools out to make it more fair. Will it be perfect? No. Will people at the very top still benefit probably more than most of us? Probably. But at least we're closing that gap a little bit, because it's insane that people can just create money out of thin air. They can print stuff. They can change laws. They could just do whatever they want with no consequences. Like this place, we know that there's consequences because everything's on chain. You could see it. Like, we know how much of this there is and that. And I know this answer is not short, but essentially, if I had to say, it's because it was the last chance for, I think, us all to come together and fix a lot of these issues. And also, at the end of the day, I just think it's like the ultimate sign of freedom, and that's all I care about is freedom. So,
Ultimate freedom. I like that. That's crypto's motto right there.
I should have just said that. I should have just said ultimate freedom and then dropped the mic.
No, man. That was a good moment to drop the mic. I enjoyed the rest of it too. Okay, guys. Well, this has been absolutely amazing. I love you guys. You guys are the reasons why we build, and I appreciate you very, very much. For reference, guys, you've been listening to Into the Cipher State. We come up and give value and education every Thursday at 9 o'clock UTC. We also upload our episodes to our YouTube channel, so make sure you jump on the Galactica profile here and find our YouTube link. Subscribe there as well. We are also now starting to stream on Podbean, so that will be on your favorite podcast service. These episodes will appear there too, so you can listen to the stream without having to worry about the video or anything. That's coming up I think we've already uploaded a few episodes there, so you can check us out. Just search for Galactica on Podbean. We'll be marketing it very soon. And again, guys, I really appreciate you. If you could just do us a favor, and on your way out of the show, give us a like and a retweet on the space. It still helps us with the algorithm, gets more people listening to the recording and getting all this value and education, which there has been a lot today. So I really appreciate that. Okay, guys. Well, I thank you very much for joining us today. There will be a Christmas special show coming up next Thursday, for which there will be some special stuff going on. Really excited to show all that to you next week. We'll be doing some announcements, so check out the Galactica account for that. We have had a great show. I have had a great time. So let's fade out, and I will see you next time, guys. Appreciate it. See you next time.